The Jacksonville Jaguars, a team that has talent, but lately it just kind of feels out of rhythm. Now, there have been points in this season where the Jaguars have looked legit, but never really a moment, in my opinion, where I was truly sold on them having a chance come postseason time. And now they're on the verge of not even making it if they can't close out the season on a high note. I think it's safe to say these past few weeks haven't been too great. Jacksonville just got blown out by the Baltimore Ravens 23-7 on Sunday Night Football. Now, this game did start off slow. Baltimore only scored 10 points in the first half, but don't let the low score fool you. The Jags got absolutely outplayed from start to finish. Trevor Lawrence struggled. It wasn't his worst game ever. He completed 58.1% of his passes with a touchdown, and he didn't throw a pick, but he sure as hell wasn't secure with the ball. He fumbled twice and was just missing throws, and that seems to be a reoccurring thing lately. He's turned it over 5 times in the last 2 games since suffering a high ankle sprain. Not to mention, he was just put into concussion protocol following the Sunday night game, so now we have to wonder just how healthy he's going to be down the stretch. Things have not been going well these last few weeks. The Jaguars have lost 3 straight and are in a 3-way tie for the AFC South at 8-6. That means if they drop multiple games to close out the season, the Jags could sure as hell miss the playoffs. Now, the Jaguars actually had a pretty solid start to this season too, which is why this late season lull is so disappointing. The Jaguars started the season 8-3 and were 1-2 early on after losses to Kansas City and the Houston Texans. Now, the Chiefs' loss was understandable, but the Texans' loss had some people scratching their heads at the time. As we know now, of course, the Texans might be kind of legit, so it now makes sense. The Jags then went on to win 5 straight before getting absolutely blown out 34-3 to the San Francisco 49ers. But those losses made sense. The 49ers are probably the best team in football, so that's not a loss to panic over. They then won back-to-back to sit at 8-3 ahead of a Monday Night Football game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the Jags weren't playing a Joe Burrow-led offense this week. It was Jake Browning. It was the second game for the Cincinnati Bengals starting Jake Browning after Joe Burrow suffered a wrist injury, and the Jaguars gave up 491 yards and lost 34-31 in overtime. The Jags should have won this game. There's really no reason why they should have made Jake Browning look like an all-pro, but they did. And to make matters worse, Trevor Lawrence suffered a high ankle sprain in the game. The Jaguars lost the next week 31-27 to the Cleveland Browns, and just wasn't a pretty game whatsoever for Lawrence. I really can't believe it was even that close to end it. It feels like that game should have been over after the half. Lawrence ended up throwing 3 interceptions as Joe Flacco went on to pass for 311 yards and 3 touchdowns. By the way, I'm so here for the Joe Flacco resurgence, but the Jags in back-to-back weeks lost games where on paper they probably should have won. Then, of course, they got crushed by the Ravens 23-7 on Sunday Night Football, with Lawrence fumbling twice and Lamar Jackson passing for 171 yards and rushing for 97 yards. The Jags have gone from fighting for the first seed in the AFC to fighting for a playoff spot. Now, luckily for the Jaguars, the AFC South is mid as fuck. 3 teams are tied at 8-6, and anything can really happen at this point. The Jaguars were expected to repeat as division winners to start the season, and it made sense why. The Jaguars had a ton of returning talent from the season prior, and they really seemed to put it all together, making it to the divisional round last year before losing to the Chiefs. Meanwhile, the other 3 teams in the division were all starting over and drafting rookie quarterbacks early on. The Tennessee Titans took Will Levis, and Levis has had his flashes, but he certainly has things to clean up, and there's a reason Tennessee sits at the bottom of the division at 5-9. Anthony Richardson was taken by the Colts, and he also showed flashes early on, but was injured in week 5, and since he's undergone shoulder surgery, and Gardner Minshew has really led the way, leading the Colts to an 8-6 record and in the playoff mix. Now, the Colts have truly been impressive this year, in my opinion. Not in the flashy, high-scoring sense, but they're just gritty. This season could have fallen apart completely after the Richardson injury, and I feel like everyone would have understood why. But for some reason, this team just keeps kicking and is still in the mix, and I have to give head coach Shane Steichen his flowers for that. He's in in year one with the Colts and could certainly end up being a Coach of the Year candidate. Then there's probably the biggest story to come out of the AFC South, and that's CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud has been balling out as a rookie. He's been incredible, and he's going to make the Texans a formidable team to face for the foreseeable future. Houston is currently 8-6 in DeMeco Ryans' first year as a head coach, and they did just beat the Titans in overtime starting Case Keenum because Stroud was out with a concussion. Now, clearly, injuries are a major issue in the AFC South, and it's hurt the Jaguars as well. The Jags are definitely banged up. Trevor Lawrence is still dealing with that lingering ankle injury, which is limiting him. Travis Etienne is dealing with a rib injury. Offensive linemen Ezra Cleveland and Walker Little were questionable all week. I mean, luckily they played, but tight end Brendan Strange didn't, and neither did cornerbacks Tyson Campbell and Andre Sisco. Luckily, cornerbacks Christian Braswell and Trey Herndon played because they were questionable all week as well. That quarterback room was just thin coming into the Ravens game, and it definitely showed. The Jaguars just need to stay healthy, but who really knows if that's actually going to happen? I mean, you can't really predict these kinds of things. Trevor Lawrence is probably the biggest question mark right now. He's been struggling ever since suffering that high ankle sprain, and to make matters even worse, they've already lost Christian Kirk to a core muscle injury that required surgery. It's really not looking great in Jacksonville. Luckily, the road to the postseason should be somewhat easy for them. They don't face a single team over 500 in the final 3 games of the year, and their best opponent is a solid Tampa Bay Buccaneers team next week. The Bucs are currently 7-7 and are tied for first in the NFC South. They've been fine and likely are going to make the playoffs, but similarly to how I feel about the Jags at this point, they won't do much once they get there. They then play the 2-12 Carolina Panthers in Week 17. Bryce Young has been struggling all year, and the Panthers have scored 24 total points in their 2 wins this season, and the Jags should win that game. I mean, if they don't, they probably don't belong in the playoffs in the first place. And then they face the Titans in Week 18, who did just lose to Case Keenum, so who really knows? The division could be on the line in the final week of the season for the 2nd straight year. If you remember, the Jaguars lucked into the postseason last season after the Titans choked and lost 7 straight games. They then had the historic comeback against the Los Angeles Chargers to win in the wild card, but that was about it. This season, it's the Colts and the Texans who are on the heels of the Jags, and unfortunately, the Jaguars might not have the same good fortune this time around. I mean, I really hope I'm wrong. This is a team that I've actually come to enjoy watching over the past couple years. Last year, it was actually fun to see them make the playoffs, and that comeback was just insane to watch. But it doesn't feel like things are going to plan this year. It really does feel like everything is falling apart in Jacksonville. I love Trevor Lawrence. I really do think that he can be a great quarterback in this league. For the past 2 seasons have felt good, but not good enough. And I'm afraid that's going to continue to be the trend. Thank you guys for making it all the way to the end of this video. If you guys like this one, don't forget to smash that like button. And if you don't already, subscribe to the channel down below and turn on post notifications so you never miss an upload by us. Let me know down in the comments below what you guys think of the Jags. Clearly, I've made my point clear that I think they're a solid team, but not good enough to do anything come postseason time. But let me know if you guys disagree down in the comments below. If you guys want more things J&D, follow us on social media at JDProdNFL. Thank you guys for making it all the way to the end of the video. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.